Welcome to your On TV News Desk. I am here in the studio with newly elected councillor for Ward 5, Corey Gardi. How's it going today?
Good, Riley. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming in, and congratulations on your success on Monday night's election.
Thank you.
Now, that's obviously what we're here to talk about.
Of course, yeah.
So it was it was a long campaign time. We followed from the beginning as people filed their papers in, and a lot of new faces filed papers this year, and five of the councillors are new, including you.
Yep.
So, it was your first election running.
It was.
How do you feel about, just give me a summary of what that experience was like?
It was, I'm not going to kid anybody, it was an exhausting experience.
Oh, I bet.
You try and interface with as many people as you can, primarily getting to their doors, and doing that a couple hours a day for the better part of a couple months, and even more so towards the end. It's pretty grueling, and I knew it was going to be a tight race, so I knew we had to work really hard, and it's also exhilarating, right? Once you get to the end and you're successful, and for
those, it all come to fruition.
and for those who aren't, I'm sure it's a pretty hard few days, but they should be proud of the fact that they put their name on the ballot, and proud of the fact that hundreds and hundreds, and in some cases thousands of people voted for them, regardless. And
so your race, particularly in Ward 5, it was close. You had 1,424 votes to Matthew Scott's.
I think he had
1464.
Better than me by 40.
Yeah, 40. Yeah. So that's pretty close.
It was.
I mean, for two new candidates. Now, Grandinetti followed with 1396, and then Fata with 967. So nobody trailed too crazy far behind. What was it like watching the results kind of come in and see that you were, because the whole time I watched, the whole time you and Matthew stayed in the top two slots.
So personally for me, it was fun, but it was kind of excruciating. I'm not gonna lie to anybody. Yeah. And it was funny because, like most candidates, you get to have a little get together of family and friends watching them come in, and they all watch them in a home, and I watched them outside kind of in the rain by myself on my phone, because I kind of wanted to be alone. I wanted to kind of be alone. I'd pop in and out of the little party, but I could always hear people saying, "Where's Corey? Where's Corey?" Yeah. And I kind of just...
There's a lot to process too.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it was fun when I was inside with them, and when I was outside, it was a little excruciating.
A little lonely.
Plus, you're taking text messages and calls, and everybody kind of reiterating what you know, right? That it's close.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, so it was fun.
Now, with there being two new faces in, was that what you expected, or did you think if you got in that you'd be with an incumbent? Or did you give it a lot of thought, maybe?
You know what I did? After I filed my papers and I came in and spoke with Luann, that first few days after that, I spent a lot of time figuring out what I had to do. And while thinking about it, I knew that there was a number of variables in play that made this election in Ward 5 a little different than traditional ones, and if I can explain them for 2 seconds. Yeah. So you had myself and Mr. Scott, who were new. You had two kind of incumbents that weren't traditional incumbents. One who was going to try and seek representing a constituency that predominantly wasn't his in the past, and another who had lost a couple of elections in a row and then was appointed. Right. So I felt, for those reasons, it was going to be really close, and I really felt that I needed to interact with as many people as I could. Coupled with the fact that, unfortunately, voter turnout is lower and lower every year. I feel that you need to get to as many people as you can, and try to, if you will, convince them that you're the best man or woman for the job. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, what will be your first priority? Because throughout the election time, we talk a lot. We talk about taxes. We talk about migration. But when you get in, what's the top thing that you want to kind of get on the table to start? So there were 3 or 4 issues that came to the fore in my discussions with constituents over the course of a couple of months. One of them that I want to tackle right off the bat, ward specific, is slowing down truck traffic in the West End, because I met with dozens and dozens of families in that regard over the course of the campaign. Some who were quite adamant, some who have been trying to work on the issue over the course of the last several years and not getting very far. So I've committed to that, and that's something I want to do right off the hop. All right, so that's what your constituents can expect to hear, that you heard them on that issue in this
I heard them on that issue. I heard them on some infrastructure pieces, not necessarily doing the work that they need to do, ditches and culverts predominantly.
Pretty bad in that ward.
Yeah, you know what, especially in some of the rural areas. those were two, and then a lot of people talked about issues in and around property standards not being maintained. You know, those things that are neighborhood specific that could lead to a bit of a kind of degradation of a neighborhood,
right,
if you will. So those were the three things that I heard about most.
Absolutely. Now we're going to take a short break, and then we will be back here in the studio with Corey Gardi to talk a little bit more about his campaign, what brought his success, and what his hopes are going forward. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to your On TV News Desk. Here in the studio, I have Corey Gardi, who has just been successful in his bid for a seat on council in Ward 5. So we talked a little bit about your campaign, about what some of your first priorities are upon being that inaugural meeting. Now, were there any concerns that you heard from constituents in Ward 5 that you had never considered kind of prior to running, or is anything that surprised you that as an issue?
It's a good question. Anything surprising? No, they were pretty much, regardless of where issues. I was, in a rural area or a more traditional neighborhood in Ward 5. Like I had mentioned prior to the break, like infrastructure, roads, right. Roads. Obviously, I was ready for that. I was ready for snow removal, right, for that to be a topic. And I knew people had called me prior to me even starting my campaign after I announced, talking about some issues with some property in terms of their ditches and stuff. Right. But it was throughout the ward. It's not the most glamorous issue, but it's a practical one, right? Yeah. Especially with a lot of we have to be sensitive to the demographic of our community. Absolutely. And a lot of people expressed to me, they said, you know what, Corey, we used to be able to help out with the ditches 20, 25 years ago, right? When I was 45, 50 years old. But I'm 70 years old now. And I can't get in there and cut the grass. And I can't get in there and clear the culvert like I used to. So I think as a community, we have to be sensitive to those issues of some of our older constituents. And in Ward 5, there is a large population, too, of older citizens in those older neighborhoods. Yeah. So I think, you know, that's definitely a very valid concern. Now, in terms of the new council going in, how do you feel about like the faces that are on council in terms of what the energy or the flow will be like? I'm excited by it. Yeah? I'm excited by it because I know a few of these people personally, whether they're returning or they're new. And there are a few people who were elected for the first time who I got to know over the course of this campaign, just at different candidate meetings and stuff like that. And I'm excited by it. It's a group of intelligent people who I think are looking to pull in the same direction. Right. So I'm excited by the fact that I think we can get a lot of great things done for our city over the course of the next 4 years and set it up for future success. Now, something I wanted to ask you about as well, you talked before about a knowledge economy. Yep. Can you share a little bit about that, and is that still one of the main priorities for your kind of council time? Yeah, so community, like if I thought about a community-wide issue, I think that's something that I'd like to lend my efforts to is economic diversification. And I think, you know, I mentioned this before, the plan's going to be settled over the course of the next couple of months. I'm confident in that. I think it's a prime time for us to kind of focus and redouble our efforts in a different direction. And I think the only way that a community is going to thrive in the future economically is by developing a knowledge-based economy. And that's only done by creating a culture of innovation and through, you know, businesses, entrepreneurs working collaboratively with post-secondary institutions. And that's what I want to lend my efforts to. So is that kind of, are there any, or maybe you don't know and maybe you'll find out in November, but are there committees now that kind of work on those things? Sure, like I think there's been a lot of work in that regard, and I think there's been some real progress too in schools, post-secondary institutions in our community addressing some of the needs that we have locally. I think the opening of the business school at Algoma University is great. I think it'll lend help to companies like OLG and Algoma, in terms of like business department and stuff, hiring talent and people getting properly educated. Right. And there's a lot of people, like I know Tom Vare at City Hall's been doing a lot of work in that regard, along with the EDC and the Innovation Center. So yeah, that works there, and I'd like to, if I could, lend a hand. Absolutely. Now, one of my last questions for you: what was one of the toughest parts about running as a first-timer? That maybe you didn't anticipate, or that you would forewarn other young candidates that are looking to put their name in? Well, I think it's it's the time that you need to put in. I'd have been involved in volunteering on campaigns before, going door to door was something that I never was really a big part of.
Yeah.
And I can't influence, or I can't impress upon people who want to kind of aspire to be a candidate and run for political office the importance of getting out there and meeting people. And it was such a great thing. When you get into this and you think you got to go to all these doors and talk to all these people, you're always worried, like how people are going to receive you. I never had one bad experience, and I bet you I was at 26 or 2,700 homes and apartments.
Wow.
Not one bad experience where somebody said, "Hey, what are you doing here? Get off my property." Like I was anticipating some of that.
Yeah.
Nothing. Smiles, happy, engaging, good questions, great concerns. So that was refreshing.
Yeah, no, that's definitely good to hear. And I think too, in the age of, we have digital media, we have so many means of communicating that aren't face to face. There is a lot still to be said for going door to door and having that personal conversation. Because what I've heard from anyone I've talked to so far that's had success, and even talking with Brady Irwin, he was our
Brady knows his stuff, sure.
That comes through time and time again with successful candidates, is the importance of getting door to door, regardless of how social media or advertising works.
Absolutely.
Well, Corey, I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for your time coming in today, and we're really looking forward to seeing what you bring to council.
Thanks, Riley.
Thank you. It was great to meet you, and we will be back with more news coming up on TV just after this break. Stay tuned.